Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic, power scaling. Wow. All right, let's go. Okay, Mihawk versus Shanks. Let's fucking do this, lads. It's going to be fantastic. All right, let's talk about this. So as you probably know from my top 30, if you didn't see it, I'm a Mihawk guy. I think Mihawk is probably better than Shanks, and after Shanks' feats in Film Red. By the way, spoilers for Film Red in terms of the ability Shanks shows off, and one of the final scenes, it's a minor scene, everyone knows about it already, but in case you don't, spoilers. Alright, let's go into this. So first of all, my god, this chapter, get the Mihawk stocks, bro, the Mihawk stocks. Now, I don't think I invested in as early as some people, but I do. I'm very happy because right now we're going to talk about this. Now, obviously, I seem like a heavily Mihawk bias right now, but we'll talk about all the different options to go through with this. We're going to start with my opinion, and then I'm going to take the form of a Shanks over Mihawk fella for a bit, and we'll talk about that near the end. But first of all, in my opinion, especially because I saw the end of Film Red and the beginning of Film Red, because the fucker that I watched the movie of who sent me video cam footage just turned it off midway through the film, so I missed like 30 minutes of the film, unfortunately. Oh, I was so hyped though. I can't wait till it comes out over here. Anyway, point being is that Shanks, everything he shows off, besides that final scene where he like AoEs everyone around him with Conqueror's Hockey and makes like the Admirals shiver, like, oh no, Shanks, don't touch us, no, please, don't do this, like he did with Green Boy, that sort of thing. Yeah. Besides that attack, every single feat he shows is a sword feat. Which, in my opinion, if Shanks shows a feat with his sword, then Mihawk can do that. Probably better, because the chapter basically says that Mihawk is stronger than Shanks when it comes to swordsmanship. Now, there are obviously many different things in, the One Piece verse that can make you stronger than a swordsman. For example, we all know, even if Luffy and Zoro are relative, Zoro is under Luffy still, right? Luffy is still stronger than Zoro. Conqueror's Hockey Zoro could not have beaten Kaido even after all the damage he took, right? He probably would have, to be honest, he probably would have lasted longer than non-Gear 5 Luffy, because I honestly think Zoro is more durable than Luffy, in my opinion. Like, Luffy got knocked out by one of Kaido's blows when the CP0 guy was keep. I don't think Zoro would have fallen for that, and so he would have lasted longer. But I do think he wouldn't have done as much damage. And he would have probably... Honestly, he would have probably died against Kaido. Whereas Luffy, obviously with the Gear 5, we don't know how big of a difference that makes for their gap. But I'd assume Luffy's now like 120 and Zoro's now like 100. In terms of percentage, right? That's kind of how I'm going to say it at the minute. But aside the point, the difference with this argument with Luffy and Zoro is that Luffy doesn't use any type of sword. He only used a sword at the beginning of Wano as a joke, and he never even imbued hockey into it. He still imbued them into his fists and just punched people. So, but the difference with that is Shanks primarily uses a sword, right? Especially in the Film Red movie, we see that he can flare up his thing with like hockey flames. I'm assuming it's hockey flames, unless it's just actual flames. Like, it looks like actual flames, but I'm assuming it's hockey flames because it didn't have the same flare that like the Mera no Mi has, or like Sanji's leg has, but it didn't look exactly like Shanks' signature hockey. So I couldn't tell exactly. But that is my point, right? Shanks, when he's fighting in this movie, and when we've seen him fight, always fights with a sword, yeah? And the whole point of this is, the whole thing that, in my opinion, crutches the argument for Shanks fans is his hockey ability, right? But to me, the only thing Shanks shows that could possibly put him above Mihawk, or is the AoE, like the area of effect, right? In my opinion, just like Zoro, even if Mihawk's hockey is as strong as Shanks' hockey, well, I'm saying it is as strong as Shanks' hockey, but to me, he doesn't do the area of effect attacks. He's all about the way of the swordsman, so he would have never tried to do any area of effect. He always uses his sword, right? He wouldn't do I doubt he'd even do the hockey glare. I think he just, no matter what, he's always going to use his sword, even if he just pulls out his sword to do the hockey glare. Like, it all comes from his sword, you know what I mean? So, it all comes down to the fact that if Mihawk can be affected by Shanks' will in terms of the AoE attack. So if Shanks just stood there and like went bam, conquers hockey, and it like made Mihawk shiver, or it put Mihawk off his game, then Shanks wins, right? No matter what we say, because because they are comparable to each other. Like if Mihawk is over Shanks, it's the sort of way where it's like one fuck up and either of them could lose, right? It's not a very massive difference at the end of the day. It's like when they fight each other, it's still one fuck up and either of them could lose. It's just the reason he wouldn't fight Shanks with one arm is his own pride. Because in his mind, in Mihawk's mind, in my opinion, the whole idea about the one arm thing is that it's a pride thing. You know, he's not going to fight someone who can't use his dominant arm because that's unfair. Also, because it's more likely for him to slip up during a fight because he only has one arm, and in a very high stakes fight, it would probably fuck him over. And he's like, I have respect for you through the battles we've won, and I will not fight you in that regard. I don't think he views himself as stronger than Shanks or not equal to Shanks. I think he either views them as equal or he views him as a little bit stronger because of the arm thing, but I don't think it's that much. But my point with this is that it all depends on Shanks' AoE attacks. Like, that is really the deciding factor here, because now you could say the whole observation killer thing could also be a big, huge player in this. Like, we could have, for example, Shanks. But I feel like that feat, with the observation feat, in my opinion, is probably going to be I'd say Mihawk can do the same thing. Because the whole breath thing, come on, the whole point of Alabasta, right? The whole Daz Bones fight was Zoro controlling his breathing to be able to cut steel, right? And surely Mihawk can do the same thing. I don't think Shanks would be able to basically control Mihawk's breathing, because it seems like one of the key components to cutting anything is controlling the breath of your sword and your own breath. So I feel like that ability is null and void with Mihawk specifically, right? Now, obviously, this is all anecdotal, but let's be real, most of this power scaling and stuff is anecdotal anyway. But I do think the most important thing in this analysis is the idea that it was stated in this chapter that he is a stronger sword, he has better swordsman skills, and based on the fact that Shanks is only using swords mainly for his abilities, it's like, alright, that's it. That is it, man. I think it is. Also, come on. No matter how, you have to understand, the amount of clout Mihawk is gonna... Mihawk has a higher bounty than the guy he's supposedly under, right? And obviously, out of universe, that makes sense. But in universe, that is insanity, okay? Because that's like if Beckman had a higher bounty than Shanks, right? That's the sort of deal we're going with right now. And in my opinion, that has a lot of weight to it, because you don't see that happen anywhere else, right? So I feel like with this, because Shanks is a lot more territory, a lot more people around him, so the 4 bill could mean a lot more things, right? But Mihawk having such a high bounty with him alone and all his feats is maddening, to be honest with you. Maddening, and I think we have to really put that into account. Now, the Shanks fans argue that obviously the AoE and the Hockey Master thing, but in my opinion, with all the fight, Swordsman skill, in my opinion, if you fight with a sword, includes hockey, right? And now, we could talk about the Black Blade argument all we want. We'll talk about Black Blades near the end, because I want to actually talk about some pro Shanks talk. Obviously, it's the whole Shanks is Luffy's probably one of Luffy's major opponents. So, and Mihawk is one of Zoro's, and if Luffy's over Zoro, then it has to be. But that's not necessarily true, right? Because Mihawk is probably Zoro's final opponent. Okay, because unless it's Shiryu, but one of Zoro's final opponents. But if we can think, you could think of 3 potential opponents besides Shanks that are Luffy's final opponent, right? You've got Blackbeard, Akainu, and Emu. And of course, I don't believe in Akainu. I think Akainu is going to be a Sabo fight. I'm sure Luffy will get involved, but he won't be the one to do the final blow. But anyway, my big point here is there's 3 potential options for Luffy's final fight. Whereas Zoro, it's either Mihawk or it's Shiryu, bro. And like, if that's the case, Shiryu will have to be stronger than Mihawk, right? So it's probably going to be Mihawk. So at some point, Shanks is going to be surpassed by Emu. So if Emu is the final villain, Luffy can still surpass Zoro and Mihawk by beating Emu, or whatever happens then, right? And even Blackbeard, but I think Blackbeard won't be stronger than Shanks. I feel like he'll just be cunning enough and like take him that way. But that's more of a discussion for another day, to be honest. But that's what I'm trying to say here. Shanks does not need to be stronger than Mihawk for the whole Luffy Zoro thing to work out well, because we've got Emu and Blackbeard as potential antagonists, and same with Akainu as well. Now, where do I put these two? I now have Mihawk as my top 1, right? Mihawk as number 1 and Shanks as number 2, and then Dragon is number 3. I know I'm a big Dragon stan. I'm gonna keep Dragon there until we see some feats, but I just gotta say it. The more I think about Dragon, the more I think he's busted. I really do, but that's not important right now. Still, it's interesting because the more I talk about this, the more I'm leaning towards Mihawk. Like, you know what I mean? Because Shanks, everything I'm thinking about, every feat he's ever had has been like a swordsman feat. You know, he blocked he blocked Akainu's big attack and everything like that, you know? So it's very important to think about it, right? Where it's like, Shanks is a swordsman, okay? And the Black Blade stuff, we'll get onto that right now. Okay, that's a major discussion point, because the Black Blades are insanity. Because Odin couldn't get it with Enma. He was probably top 3 in the verse by the time he died, right? Top 4 maybe? Like, he was if Roger is top 1 and then Whitebeard is top 2, Odin or Kaido were top 3, and then Odin, like, depending on where you rank it, I rank Odin over Kaido personally. So Odin was top 3, like at least top 5 in his verse at the time he died, and he could not make Enma a Black Blade. Top 1 in the entire verse, Roger, that we have not seen anything to do with, has not made his blade black, right? We don't, Whitebeard didn't make his black, Shanks didn't make his black, and all this different stuff. But who, out of every one of those, was able to make their blade black and fully master being a swordsman? It was Mihawk. And the difference here is, right, with Whitebeard, he's got the Gura Gura no Mi. Okay? And I would argue Whitebeard is stronger than Roger in his prime. Right? Or no, yeah, in their primes, I still think Whitebeard might have been stronger, but I feel like he didn't want to use the full extent of his abilities because it would destroy the world. But that's a side point. Now, the reason I'm worried about this argument is because this could either be a pro for Shanks or a negative for Shanks. Because you could say, well, you see, if the strongest in the verse didn't need a Black Blade, then obviously Shanks would still be stronger than Mihawk because the Black Blades might mean nothing. But there's no point of it meaning nothing if it's going to be Zoro's big achievement to beat Mihawk and get his Black Blades, or with the Black Blades, right? This is going to be a big, huge thing. So to have it mean nothing in terms of power would be ridiculous. Now, one thing that I will say, and I think is one of the biggest things that are in favor of Shanks, is the fact that when Mihawk was at Marineford, he refused to call himself better than Whitebeard after he slashed the tsunami. He said, I'm still not at his level. So that's very interesting. Obviously, you got, you know, the Gurugura no Mi as a extra bit, but you could say, like, there's, though, in a way, because there's so much conflicting evidence, it's like, why don't even argue the Black Blade stuff, because there's Roger, there's Roger and there's Whitebeard, which both kind of cause problems in that argument. You could say Shanks is now currently stronger than Prime Roger, which I'm not against, to be honest. If Shanks is stronger than Roger, and then like Luffy is stronger than Shanks, and then that's 2 levels above, which would be funny. But if you argue that, we could also argue that Mihawk is stronger than Shanks. But considering he didn't feel himself stronger than old Whitebeard, or at least I don't think, and that could also be a thing, right? Because Shanks never did the statement that Mihawk made where he kind of compared himself to Whitebeard, so we don't know how Shanks felt about old Whitebeard, right? So you could argue, well, if Mihawk was putting himself down when he was comparing himself to Whitebeard, you know, that's a big sign. And it is a big sign. I think it's the biggest pro Shanks moment in the entire series, in my opinion. Nothing else that happened in Marineford, I think, is to be put into perspective, because he wasn't fucking trying. You could also say, you know, he walked away when Shanks came in, but that could be for various reasons. It could be a sign of respect, or he knows what's up with Shanks. There's a lot to be said with that. Now, I will say, I still believe that Mihawk is stronger than Shanks, but I do think it's a lot more complex than I originally thought, because that Whitebeard statement could change everything. If, like, that's the thing. Because there's an argument to be made that after that statement, he's like old Whitebeard level, which people are now saying that Luffy could be old Whitebeard. So that's not a good comparison, right? Whereas Shanks' minimum comparison is like, well, I guess Sea King level, but we don't talk about that, right? His minimum comparison is the other Yonkos, right? So his minimum comparison would have been Kaido, because it was able to stop Kaido from going to Marineford, wouldn't it? Whereas we assume Kaido was stronger than old Whitebeard, so it's very difficult, right? You could argue either way, but in my opinion, I'm still going for Mihawk after the feats we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and the fact that everything in Film Red, besides the whole observation thing and the AoE effects, was a sword feat by Shanks, and it's stated in this chapter that Mihawk has better sword skill than Shanks. But let me know what you guys think. I love these sort of videos where we talk about different characters' abilities and stuff. I'm sure I missed things, you know, I was kind of talking off the cuff. I didn't check all my information, so I'm sure I missed things 100%. But let me know what you guys think. Are you a Shanks guy for this debate, or are you a Mihawk guy? I'm assuming most of these are Shanks, but I want to know. And with that being said, if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content from me. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.